all the best boxing content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and punch that bell for notifications.
Boxing World Weekly, speaking with super welterweight contender Caoimhin Agyarko, also known as Black Thunder. And I want to know where did your passion for boxing come from?
Just from I joined obviously boxing when I was 7 years old, and I kind of just obviously grew up fighting, and yeah, once I kind of understood the sport a bit better, I just loved it, and loved fighting and training and stuff.
So you started when you were 7 years old. Is there any particular reason why you started at that age? Like, what got you into it at that point?
My uncle used to box, and my mom kind of just brought me to the gym where my uncle used to box, and I just started from there. I put gloves on, and I haven't looked back.
So your uncle, was he still alive when that transition was made for you?
Yeah, he's still alive, but he wasn't boxing. Like he wasn't boxing anymore. But it was kind of just the club, the gym that I joined was where, like, in the community where my family grew up, and it was like across the road from my granny's house, and it was kind of just to show us where he boxed, and I put gloves on. Like I said, I haven't looked back.
And how much influence has he had on your career?
Not much. He's obviously. I remember there was a period where he used to come down and watch me train when I was a lot younger, but he's always supported me and stuff like that. But he hasn't had kind of much influence in terms of making me do it, or he's always just, if it's something that I wanted to do, my family's always supported me. Gotcha.
And why are you nicknamed Black Thunder? Where'd that come from?
It's actually a funny story. One of my friends, when I look back on it now, so I fought in the WSB. I'm not too sure you're familiar with that.
Yeah, no, please tell me.
It's so in the amateurs, it's a world. They don't do it anymore, but it's World Series of Boxing.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard of that.
And I fought for the Italian Thunders, and I just won against France, and I'd come home, and me and my friends were out for a couple drinks, and just that night he started calling me Black Thunder, and I kind of put it down to drunken, like him being drunk, but I said to him, like, that's going to be my boxing name. But when I look back on it now, it's kind of like maybe he got that from me fighting for the Italian Thunders, and that's why he called me Black Thunder. But I actually haven't questioned him on that. I'll give him his praise. He called me Black Thunder, and it's stuck ever since. There's a lot of fighters called with the nickname themselves Thunder.
Yeah.
So Daddy was one. But I mean, Black Thunder's original, so that's why I think I liked it so much, and I kept it. So.
Exactly. So when you did turn pro, now you've had a very successful start to your career, obviously being a super welterweight regional champion as we currently stand, obviously looking to become a world champion at some point. What's been the biggest surprise for you in your pro boxing career?
Yeah, definitely. Everything that I've done right now is everything I've dreamt of, and I wanted to achieve my career in terms of being signed with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, previously being signed with Queensberry and Frank Warren. The things that I envisioned and kind of planned on happening in my career. Listen, when you sit back and you look at it, like I'm a regular kid, like anybody else, and I'm achieving my dreams and chasing my goals, and when reality sets in, it's crazy. Like I'm living my dream. But I envisioned everything that's happening in my career, and sometimes I do go pinch myself and be like, wow, I'm fighting for the best. For me, the best promoter in the game, and on the biggest platform. So yeah, I mean, sometimes that's a big surprise for me that I actually am kind of achieving my dreams and my goals. But I have definitely envisioned this happening.
What about the fame? Has the fame ever gotten to you where it's like where you finally realize, like, holy crap, like I've actually made it?
Do you know what? I get, obviously when I'm back in Belfast, or just like in general, I get a lot of people coming up to me asking me for my autograph or asking for photos and stuff, and like it's overwhelming because I see myself as a regular person.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm just somebody that the line of job that I do, it's in the public eye. So when people call me famous or you're a celebrity, I'm like, I'm not. I'm just someone that's very successful in my job, It just happens to be in the public eye. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's good to get the recognition off the back of being successful and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever let it get to me in terms of like change me as a person.
I get that. On one of your immediate goals, obviously, is to become the first Black Irish world champion, which would be historic all in its own right. But after you do that, because obviously that's an assumption in your mind as a pro boxer, obviously. After you do that, what are your goals?
Obviously, after campaigning at 160, I probably would like to go up and win a world title at 160 and be a 2-weight world champion. But for now, my goal is to be the first Black Irish world champion. Once I cross that bridge, then I'll set new goals. But yeah, I think being a two-weight world champion would be a great achievement.
So you just mentioned that you did fight at 160, obviously previous to this. You won a regional title there as well. What made you choose to go down to 154? Is it the current crop of champions, or I guess the champion at 154, or was it because you feel right now you're better at 154 than you are at 160?
I think it was a decision that me and my team made to make 154. Obviously, I'm not the biggest of 160 pounders. I'm 5'10" in height. I am quite stocky and muscular, but I think when you look at the weight division, the Golovkins and stuff like that, they're coming down from probably like over light heavyweight to meet the weight. You know what I mean? So I was making middleweight very comfortably. It was just a decision me and my team made that why don't we move down to 154? We can make it healthily, and then I would have the advantage of being the bigger guy. So yeah, I think although I performed well at 160, I think I have advantages at 154.
Who's on your radar at 154? I mean, I assume Charlo, but there's probably guys in between there that you gotta fight first before you get there.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't really look at the division and say I want him or him.
Okay.
I focus on myself. I'm in competition with nobody else but myself until the opponents face me in the ring. That's when it becomes competition for me. But listen, 154 division is stacked. You know what I mean? The end goal is to be world champion. Right now, Charlo has all the belts, so that's the kind of target that I'm looking at to get to. I think that he'll move up in weight after the Tszyu fight if that goes ahead, and the belts will scatter. So whoever's in line, I'd like the Tszyu fight. You've got some people domestically like your Troy Williamsons, your Josh Kellys. Them fights would be great for me. Sam Eglinton, Dennis Hogan and stuff like that. So listen, you can't skip levels in boxing. Although I'm ranked number 10 with the WBA, I'm only 12-0. I'm only 25, so I've still got a bit of learning to do and a bit of experience to gain.
What do you think about the Charlo Tszyu fight, assuming it happens?
Do you know what? I actually haven't watched a lot of Tszyu. Like I said, I don't really follow the weight division because I'm not in competition with anybody. But
okay.
I have watched quite a bit of Charlo, and he's a spectacular fighter. He's kind of got it all. He's got fast hands. He's strong, and he's got a good boxing IQ and ability. So listen, it's going to be hard to beat Charlo, especially the form that he's in. But what I've heard of Tszyu, what I have seen of him, it's a very competitive fight. So I look forward to watching that one. Yeah,
I think the popular media opinion is that Tszyu might be in above, like it's a tall task for him at the point of his career, considering he just had his US debut against Gaucher and he got dropped in that fight for the first time of his career. So the Charlo fight, I think, is a massive step up, but not one that I don't think he can compete at. So now, since you've had experience at middleweight, I got to ask you, I guess, about the fight this weekend, Canelo Triple G. How do you see that going?
Do you know what? I'm a massive fan of both of them. And I actually thought Triple G won both of the fights, both of the previous fights. But I think Triple G's 40 now, something like that. Canelo's basically in his prime. Although he's coming off a loss, he's in his prime. And I just think it might be a step too far for Triple G. I think Canelo being the younger, fresher guy, I think it's going to be quite easy for him this time.
Right on. Yeah, no, I kind of fall into the same camp. I've just been jumping on not if he wins, depending on when he wins. Does he win by decision? Does he win by knockout? I haven't quite figured that out for myself just yet.
I think it'll be very hard to stop someone like Golovkin. He's never been dropped. He's never been stopped. He's tough. He's got a lot of pride. He comes from a very tough fighting country like Kazakhstan, so he will be very hard to stop. But it is a possibility with his age and stuff, and you've seen slight dips in his performances. But at the same time, I feel like now he's moving up to 168, is it?
Yeah, 168 for this fight, yeah.
168, do you know what I mean? At middleweight, you could see that he was maybe a bit drawn, kind of having to keep making that weight for a long time, and maybe that's why we've seen dips in his performances.
Sure.
So I hope that him moving up kind of adds something to his game in terms of being that bit fresher and stronger.
I like that. And the final fight I want to ask you about before I go back to you and your own career is all the talk around Eubank Ben. You are someone that, is right around that weight class. Obviously, they're fighting at 157, I believe, for this fight at a catch weight. What do you think of that fight? Do you think it makes sense for both fighters, and who do you think wins that fight?
I only think it makes sense financially for both fighters. I don't think it does anything for either of their careers. Other than Conor Ben. Conor Ben beats a name like Eubank. It's great for him.
Yeah.
Eubank beats Ben. Ben's a smaller guy. Do you know what I mean?
But even then, even if Ben does beat him, there's always the excuse of a drained Eubank.
Exactly. So I don't really, other than it being financially, their fathers fought in the past, and obviously it makes sense that way. As kind of building it in that sense, it makes sense. But it's a tough fight. I think Conor Ben definitely has the power to keep Eubank honest, but I don't think he stops him. If he's winning, it's going to be in points. And I think if Conor Ben can get past the first 4 or 5 rounds, I think it can be a very competitive fight. But then again, Eubank's kind of size might be too much for Ben.
Yeah, I completely agree. But let's get back to you. Do you have another fight date in mind? I mean, you fought 2 months ago actually, I'll ask you that first. You fought 2 months ago. That was for the super welterweight, you're defending your super welterweight regional title. Was that your toughest test to date?
Yeah, so it was actually for the WBA International. Obviously, it was my first fight.
Okay.
I'd won one at 160, but yeah, I think on paper it was my toughest fight, not physically.
Okay.
I think my toughest fight was probably my sixth fight against Jez Smith. Sixth or seventh fight against Jez Smith. That was my toughest fight for me. But on paper, my last fight against Maciej, that was my toughest fight. He was a solid opponent. 28-4, never been stopped. So
Fought Anthony
Fowler and stuff like that. So yeah, he was a tough opponent.
So why do you think that your 7th or 6th fight was your toughest fight?
I mean, against someone like Jez Smith, who's a credible opponent. He was 11-1 when I fought him. He was tough, and for my kind of 5th fight, he had a lot more experience than me, and yeah, it was just a very physical fight. A fight where I possibly maybe lost a round or two in the mid rounds, and it was one where I had to just work hard in.
Gotcha. How about? Now I'll ask you. Do you have another fight date in mind?
Yeah, well, it should be announced by the end of this week. I can't announce it just yet, but I expect to be out in October time, start of November. So my team's just finalising, and it should be announced the end of the week.
Awesome. Defending your belt, I assume?
Yeah, I'll be defending. Yeah.
Awesome. And I assume a tougher test than Maciej?
Yes, if everything's accepted, which I think it is, it'll be an American opponent, an unbeaten American opponent, and I look forward to the challenge.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. How would you describe your style to the fans that haven't had the pleasure of watching you just yet?
I would say I'm an aggressive counter puncher. Yeah, an aggressive counter puncher that's very explosive, exciting to watch. I've got fast hands. I punch hard, and yeah, I'm kind of, it's always all action whenever I'm fighting.
I do want to ask you this. I read it in an article today, and I was thoroughly just, what's the word, inspired by it in a sense. Before your boxing career, obviously you didn't just get here without having to overcome a pretty big obstacle. And I want to know if you are able to just share with us that story and, coming back from your incident.
Yeah, obviously before I turned professional, in 2018, I was stabbed down the side of my face and neck in 2017, and yeah, it was one of them ones where I just won an international tournament, and a week later I was out with my ex-girlfriend, and unfortunately I was attacked by 30 people, and I got stabbed down the side of my face, neck, and I was an inch from death. So obviously it was an unfortunate thing to happen to me, but thankfully I'm still here, and I pursued my boxing career and stayed positive, and just got back in the ring and kept fighting.
Was there ever a doubt? Like, once you realized that you were going to make it through, was there ever a doubt that you still wanted to turn pro?
Yeah, I mean, I never lost track of the end goal. No matter what, obviously, I went through some very hard times after getting stabbed, some mental battles and stuff like that. But boxing's all I've ever done. It's all I know. I've been doing it since I was 7 years old. I live and breathe boxing, and no matter whatever's happened in my life, I've never been sidetracked. I've always used that to motivate myself and continue to be successful and chase my dreams.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to finish off with a few more fun questions. At this point in your career, I asked this question to a couple other boxers. Do you consider yourself lucky?
No. Everything that in terms of the opportunities that I've had and I've gotten, I've created them for myself. I've put the work in, but the lifestyle that I live, I kind of consider myself lucky in that way because I love what I do. I'm lucky to have a job that I enjoy, that I love, that I get to fight in front of thousands of people, whether it's ringside or on telly. So yeah, I'm lucky in that sense. But in terms of boxing and what I've achieved and the opportunities that I created for myself, I'm not lucky, no.
I'm always intrigued by fighters' answers because they're always different. They always have a different perspective, and I just love asking that question. What would you be if you weren't a pro boxer? Because this has obviously been a thing your entire life. So a question for you, I think, is actually a very good question.
I've always been into sports growing up. So like I used to play football, you would call soccer. I always played that. I would ever own my own gym. I would work in a gym, or I would just be working a regular job.
That's fair. My final question for you is, how do you define success for yourself?
How do I define success for myself? It's a tough question. I think being happy with what you've achieved or what you've set out to achieve. Success isn't always what it seems to be in terms of bright lights and being in the public eye. It could be something so small and simple. I set myself small goals, and whether anyone else considers that to be successful or not, for me it's being successful. I've achieved that, and I think defining that for myself is just achieving what I've set out to achieve, whether it's a massive achievement or a small achievement.